of Education. We're going to call the meeting to order and go into an anticipated adjournment for executive session. Can I please have a motion?
I move that we adjourn to the executive session to discuss personnel matters to be considered for board action at a future meeting and seeking advice from district council.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. We're in executive session. It's 6:06 p.m. We will be out at 8 p.m. promptly. Thank you. Evening. The time is now 8:12 p.m. So much for 8 sharp. But it's 8:12 p.m. and we are resuming the open session of the Board of Education. Could everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Next on our agenda is item B2, which is an introduction of new hires. Most of you may remember that last year we instituted a new procedure where we will hire staff members that are going to be working here at the district, and we will introduce those staff members at the next regular board meeting. We had quite a few staff members that we hired late in the end of last year into the summer, and some of them were able to come tonight to come on camera, introduce themselves to the board and of course the public, and to get to know us. So first on our list, we have Timothy Ryan, who is an elementary school teacher. Mr. Ryan, are you here? Yes, great, thank you. Please come up to the podium with the mic and introduce yourself to the board and the public, and let us know where you are teaching as an elementary teacher. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tim Ryan. I'm a new pre-K teacher at the ECP, and I'm at the LFJ building.
Wonderful. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you all. Thank you.
And you guys had back to school night tonight, huh?
Yes, just had back to school night, so.
All right,
Busy day.
awesome.
Yep.
Well, welcome. Thank you for joining Greenberg Central School District.
Thank you so much.
Next, we have Amy Spielberger. And Ms. Spielberger is a special education teacher. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, good evening. Amy Spielberger. I'm special education self-contained 812 classroom, and I am at the early childhood program in the main building. And thank you for having us.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ms. Spielberger, and thank you both for coming on your back to school night. I know that's a lot. Next, we have Michelle Fazino. And if I butcher anyone's name, please correct me when you come to the mic. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Michelle Fazino, and I am the 6th grade math teacher at R.J. Bailey. Thank you for having us here tonight, and really feel welcome here at the Greenberg School District.
Thank you so much, Ms. Fazino. Nice to meet you. Next, we have Ms. Jessica Ciofoletti. And please let us know where your post is and what you teach.
Sure. Hi, Jessica Ciofoletti. Very good. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I am the art teacher, or one of the art teachers here at Woodlands.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ms. Ciofoletti. And we also have Alexandra Lepis. Oh, okay, he's not here. Let's move on, sorry. We have, a math teacher. I'm going to pronounce the last name Otobo. And please tell me your full name and what you're teaching, please, and where.
Okay, good evening. Thank you for taking the safe choice and saying my last name. I go by Ella Otobo. My first name is very complicated. It's Agogo. I am here at Woodlands. I feel like I'm an all-purpose teacher. I teach honors algebra 1, I teach 7th grade math, and I teach consumer math. So I teach a bit of everything. And I also teach 7th and 8th grade AIS here.
Wonderful.
Thank you for having me.
You are very much needed, Ms. Otobo. Thank you so much. And Ms. Weiss?
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
My name is Rachel Weiss. and I am a 7th grade social studies teacher here at Woodlands.
Thank you very much. And next we have Spanish teacher Kathy Briceno Paul. You gonna fix that for me? Did I mess it up? I'm sorry.
No, you said it perfectly.
Okay,
That's fine.
great.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Kathy Briceno Paul, and I am the new Spanish teacher. I'm teaching Spanish in the middle school and the high school here at Woodlands High School.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Chelsea Imbert, special education teacher.
Hi, yes, good morning. My name is Chelsea Imbert. I am teaching special education here at Woodlands. Right now I'm doing a little bit of everything. I'm teaching the self-contained 7th grade, science, and also resource room. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And we have Miss Wise, what the kids call you. I'm not going to try to pronounce your last name, but could you please let us know?
Thank you. That was going to be my punchline. I'm Cassandra Inocencio. I teach special education at Woodlands Middle School, High School, mostly in the high school with a content specialty in English. The students call me Miss Y. I'm also the 11th grade advisor, and I'm very happy to be at Woodlands. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miss Y. Okay, thank you all for joining the Greenburgh Central School District. You are very valued. We need your expertise. And I heard a few of you say you do a couple of things. This is that type of family where we all jump in and we do a couple of things as much as possible. And I don't know if anyone from the board wants to welcome some of our teachers as well.
I just want to say welcome, and I hope you have a wonderful school year. Remember to take care of yourself as you're preparing yourself. Remember, it is about wellness and balance, and please just be able to use, you have a wonderful union, you have a great president, he's right behind you. So use the collaboration of your colleagues so that you can be successful here in the Greenburgh Central School District. But remember to take care of yourself.
So true. Thank you, Trustee Washington. Anyone else? No? Is there any teacher or staff that we hired that is not on the list? Yes, awesome. Please come up and introduce yourself. I know I had a few people that were going to try to make it, so I didn't want to read the name if you weren't able to. Please let us know your name, where you teach, what you do.
Hello? Okay, it's working. Hi, everyone. My name is Jayanne Lee Heng, and I am the pre-K teacher in the ECP building on the main building.
Wonderful. Tell me your name again.
Jayanne Lee Heng.
Lee Heng. Okay, thank you very much. Nice to meet you. Thank you all, and we will see you around, I guess. And we're going to keep going on through our agenda. Next, we have presentations and reports. We have a presentation on our strategic plan, and that I'm going to turn that over to Dr. Iverson. Thank you.
Yes, so I'm going to ask the Board of Trustees if you would join us on the front row. The screen is going to be lowered, and we will be showing each area as we go through the plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
I need someone else to click that. I'm not going to try to click that this time. So good evening to our Board of Trustees, our community, everyone assembled here. Welcome. Our purpose tonight is to introduce Phase 3 of our district strategic plan. Phase 3 involves subcommittees being formed to work on each focus area. We have 5 focus areas we're going to be presenting to you tonight. Student success, and we will go in this order. The second focus area will be infrastructure, communication, safe and healthy environment, and then premier workforce. We're going to jump right into this and start with student success. That will be presented tonight by Catherine Adore.
Thank you, Dr. Iverson. First, I would like to thank the committee for student success. I co-chaired that with Dr. Macaluso, and we're joined by Lori DeAndrea, Kelly Gillen, Tom Tokarski, Sonia Giacobbe, and Mandel Holland. We met a few times where we started the process with a mind map. Our mind map focused on the areas of student success, and student success had been broken down previously during the strategic planning earlier in the strategic planning process to focus in on implementation of the portrait of a graduate, some concepts and other items in relation to ECP and special education, look at IB and advanced learning, as well as the impact of SEL in the district. Yep. So starting with the strategic objective having to do with Portrait of a Graduate, we were looking at the concept of ensuring all students will graduate as curious lifelong learners with a pathway for contributing to our changing economy and rising workforce. So in addition to the academic-based portions of this, where we were looking at students achieving 100% of students achieving a year's worth of academic growth within a year's worth of time, and 100% career placement rates, an increase in 100% of students meeting one or more pathway that aligns with NYSCD graduation. We focused at that time beyond those measurable academic skills in the quantitative way, and also included qualitative concepts within that came out through the strategic planning process. So there were there was an emphasis on ensuring that we included financial literacy in the conversation to make sure that that was a theme and a thread that was going in through our student success area, as well as looking at incorporating and weaving in direct instruction in relation to relationship and collaboration skills. And another piece having to do with communication. What I found interesting throughout the process is without speaking the words IB, what we were doing is surfacing the IB components in those conversations, which just reinforced my heart as we went along and did this work. Another piece of this piece of the Portrait of a Graduate really focused on the creativity piece, and looking at students and how we not just teach with creativity, but how they learn with creativity. So really extending the Portrait of a Graduate to the portrait of a learner, and providing opportunities for them to use their creative minds in schools, but how are we going to measure and assess that we're giving them the opportunity to do so. Moving on to, yep, there's the creativity piece right there. I'll give you a moment to take a look at that. I will point to you to switch the slides. I just figured that out. So, yep. Part of the student success component focused in on the early childhood program, and a few of the things that we really wanted to emphasize there was making sure that there was a good articulation, not only between the PLCs from the early childhood program to the K-12 program, but also the curriculum and the communication pieces that were related to and connected right within there. We want to make sure that what we're doing is we're collecting data as to where our students are and where we want them to be, and that we're actually communicating the data as to the journey that those students have been on to the kindergarten teachers as they transition from our early childhood program on. We also wanted to put an emphasis on the idea that we increase the number of seats that are available to our community, because we believe strongly that it creates a strong foundation for our students to be able to succeed as they enter K-12 education. Taking from there, we move on to the International Baccalaureate and the advanced learning portion of the student success that had been identified. What we want to do is we really want to put an emphasis on the idea of the IB for all. Although the diploma program is a flagship program of the International Baccalaureate, what it does provide for us is the opportunity to allow those SL and HL classes to be challenged by any student, even if they're not challenging the full DP program. So we want to ensure that not only do we increase the number of classes that are offered to students, but we increase the number of students, even those who are not DP students, to allow them pathways to take those courses. Additionally, what we want to do is increase that DP cadre overall. So we hope one leads to the other, but we want to ensure that everyone has that opportunity. When we take a look at the advanced learning program at the elementary level, we want to ensure that what we're doing is not just focusing in on those advanced learning components. I could probably talk about advanced learning for a good all night if you wanted to, with my previous involvement in that program. But we want to see it succeed and continue to grow as we move forward and giving students the opportunity to challenge their way into those classrooms that are really just inquiry-based opportunities to push them forward in their academic career. But beyond that, when we look at advanced learning is kind of a large scope, and we want to give opportunities in the other areas, such as not just the intellectual and the academic, but the creative, the artistic, and the leadership components of advanced education. So making sure that we have opportunities across the board that hit all of those domains that we consider advanced learning. Additionally, we want to make sure that we reinforce and grow our enrichment activities for all students, even if they're not participating in the advanced learning program. And there is a focus of that, as we identified, to really hone in on those STEAM opportunities for students. So if you go ahead. And the last piece having to do with student success focused in on SEL. I have to say that my colleagues who are heading the SEL initiative, Mr. McCoy and Mr. Giarusso, in the district have done a phenomenal job in leading a pathway for us to really just kind of embed the work that has already begun in the spring of 2022 and into the summer in relation to the SEL initiative, and for us to reinforce and really solidify the idea that what we're going to do is we're going to commit to the implementation of the standards that are being created by that group, the curriculum that will come out of that, and put in place what is needed to assess the effectiveness of that as we move along, and to make revisions in the process along the way, knowing that SEL is not a beginning to end kind of thing. It is an ongoing process of supporting the whole child and our students. So that is where we are with the student success portion of the strategic plan. And are we move to questions, or are we moving to the next person? Take questions at the end. Okay.
Thank you. So we will now have Dennis Pugliese come and report on the work, the subcommittee, infrastructure.
Thank you, Dr. Iverson. Members of the board, good evening. My name is Dennis Pugliese. I was a co-facilitator with Ms. Lisa Raymond for the infrastructure committee, along with our team, Mr. Bell, Ms. Enriquez, Mr. Polino, and Ms. Parker. Okay. We're going to commit to updating, repairing, and replacing the district facilities and technology in order to meet the requirements of the future classroom. All the schools within the district will meet the health, safety, and educational needs of a high-performing district. We're looking to increase Greenberg's performance here and really bring this district to the next level. So we're going to develop an overreaching strategy to renovate and or replace the buildings, including technology, financing, and gathering community support. Our objectives are closely intermingled with the communications aspect of this. We have these things that we want to do, so we really need to develop a marketing plan, whether it's by reaching out to a public relations firm. We're getting some community engagement for the capital projects that we're going to need. Timelines and the community usage. I think that's the key to the infrastructure piece, like selling it to the public. Over the summer, we have quite a few buildings that we did some real repairs. We replaced 2 gymnasiums. Now, once the public gets out, open house, back to school night at ECP, I was just coming in and I saw a lot of positive feedback. Just refurbishing the grounds around there, fixing some of the sidewalks, the blacktop. Just this evening, we finished putting up some perimeter around one of the playgrounds, refreshing the mulch, and we got a lot of positive feedback from the parents there this evening. It was nice to hear that, wow, this place really looks great, and they've seen changes, and that's nice to hear. So I think just getting the public out, into our buildings, maybe, whether it's after-school activities in the gyms, soccer, basketball, they're going to get out and say, oh, wow, it looks like our money's actually doing something now, and our facilities are becoming improved. When people could come out and use the facilities and see it with their own eyes, I think that's the key to the marketing. So what we have to do is we're going to coordinate with the architects to perform an assessment for the renovation versus replacement. We need to ensure that the safety and health requirements are brought up to par for the 21st century classroom. We're going to develop a timeline for the capital projects, and that's the public relations aspect that I was speaking about also. Outreach to the community. At our last finance and facilities meeting, we were talking about the energy performance contract and how will it affect some of the community members. There was some talk about actually inviting them to our meeting to have a committee member so that their board could get some feedback before they see actually something just happen in the neighborhood. I think the outreach and the community feedback would be a good thing. We're going to define define the educational benefits of our plan. We're going to develop priorities for our 5-year plan. And we're going to develop programs to encourage community usage of the school facilities. Is there any questions, or questions that will be at the end? Okay. Thank you.
So I will be presenting for the Communications Committee. Members who worked on that committee were Mr. Mastrangelo, Principal Highview, Ms. Pat Simone, co-facilitator for the committee, who's principal over at Jackson, Jackie Burton, Will Washington, Valerie Williams, Christina Prisco, Miguel Barrios, Tara Parker, and Ivy Krause were the members of the subcommittee on communications. So the strategic goal for the committee was charged with was to commit and to come up with a plan to commit the district to develop and expand communications across the total community. The success metric that they identified there, meaning, and the way the success metric is to be thought of is what we ultimately hope to achieve at the end of this cycle of the strategic plan in 5 years. And you can see we're hoping to, after they decided and listed to survey the community to determine coverage, assuring that we get 100% return on surveys, and we are reaching out to 100% of our community, and also conduct an internal survey to determine staff and student satisfaction levels with the level of communication. Again, these are the metrics they're ultimately hoping to achieve at the end of this 5-year plan. They identified 2 strategic objectives that they're going to work on, and we know this is ongoing to continue to expand our community, communications to the community, to reach everyone in our community, all cultural, ethnic, racial, senior groups, and stakeholders. We know that's a need here in Greenburgh. We have many people in our community who don't have children in our schools, and we don't want to leave them out. We want to engage them, and so that was a very strategic objective they listed. Also, they listed to inspire community-wide confidence and pride in our schools, knowing that the more we communicate and get the word out and invite others to be in our communications and share our good word with them, what will happen ultimately is that we will inspire them, and they will be motivated to want to become more engaged and support the school and the school district. The committee identified some key actions there, and they're using words that we know we need to continue to do. Ensure consistent and transparent communications. We want to make sure all our communications are transparent and really show the story here in Greenburgh, and that they're distributed in a timely manner. We want to also ensure all school-wide communications from the buildings incorporate this welcoming and affirming language, that our environments are safe, and we want to review current communication protocols to do that. They also decided they will want to create a framework and develop a new communication plan, and that will include many, many strategies and more key actions. Develop a user-friendly and successful website. That's an ongoing goal that we're working on, but we know the website is the main communication strategy in our district. We do want to improve upon it, so we committed to it in this plan. Create an online communication toolkit, which is a toolkit with several means of communication that we can use to communicate to the community at large, and channel all of our communication, and provide families and staff and other stakeholders with feedback around how things are going in the district. Other actions identified, next page, thank you, by the committee was to identify opportunities to better engage with residents who do not have children in our school, identify community liaison role to expand community partnerships, and that is working very closely with the board and the community liaison for that, for communications, and to reach out to the town hall representatives for ideas on how to communicate with the greater Greenburgh. We know that we have, in our town hall, they have a very good way of how they connect with the community. We want to mirror that, reach out to them, and piggyback on that strategy and incorporate it here in the district, and create a glossary of pedagogical terms, abbreviations, and acronyms. We do use a lot of acronyms in education, and in making sure that when we're talking and communicating that everyone's clear on what that means. Purchase electronic display boards. That is a real need. To have a marquee at key places around the city or the community, at our schools, where a lot of traffic flows with upcoming events, highlights, celebrations. We need to get the word out more, so an electronic display marquee is a strategy that we're hoping to incorporate, and explore other options to add additional signage to around the community around Greenburgh. If you notice, the timeline for most of these are things we will do every year ongoingly for 5 years, and that is the communications strategic plan. Thank you. You're next.
Good evening. Myself and Nick Giarusso co-chaired the Climate and Culture Committee, and with us we had Ms. Rossi from the principal at RJB, Mr. Brady, who's the assistant principal here at Woodlands Middle School, Ms. Lalonga, and Mr. Lewis. We committed to foster a responsive, caring, and inclusive culture and climate where we all feel valued, supported, and comfortable and hopeful. To decide the metrics, we developed surveys to measure climate and culture with a target of 80% satisfactory. Strategic, positive, and collaborative relationship between internal and external stakeholders. Some of the key action plans was to develop these surveys, and Nick and I are co-chair of the SEL committee, and a lot of our work that we do in the SEL committee goes with our strategic plan. In June, we worked with a company of Hanover who distributed surveys to our stakeholders, and we've received the data back, or the results back with them. We have a meeting in the next few weeks to get into that data and get it out to the community. And one way that we want to start displaying that is through a website, through our SEL website. And that goes with developing a district-wide SEL program. And on that website, where we can communicate, like Dr. Iverson says, in our communication committee, to communicate more with the community. We wanted to ensure a sense of belonging and wellness for all students and staff, create a welcome and affirming environment, provide a platform for continuous year-long feedback and input for internal and external stakeholders, promote a safe environment for students and staff, where we increase the students' connection to a sense of belonging, develop protocols that reinforce dignity and respect for all. One of the other key action plans was to develop protocols to ensure each building is inviting and welcome, and ensure professional development opportunities. Some of the things we started up here at Woodlands Middle School is down by the gym. We have started branding using our brand trademark. We have new rugs that are down there. We'll be doing some things on our wall. We also have plans to start doing that up here, putting new rugs in with our logo so that when they walk in the building, they know they're here. We've also worked with facilities to bring that down to Jackson, to RJ Bailey, and to Highview. We want to upgrade job descriptions for greeters to match expectations. A parent who starts at Jackson will get the same greeting when their child is in 6th, 7th, or 8th grade, because it'll be similar to the other buildings. Distributed district-wide culture and climate surveys. Feedback from all stakeholders, and EOS trusted adult identification and mentoring. We talked about the website, expand visibility of GCSD SEL programming, and ensure signs, posters, and information boards for inside all the buildings. Oh, sorry. Did you want anything? Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
And our last focus area was Premier Workforce, strategic goal number 5. The statement, we commit to recruit, hire, recognize, and retain exceptional employees to maximize student success. That is the overall arching goal of this area. The success metrics that were identified that we're hoping at the end of the strategic plan that we have accomplished, there are that all of our systems and structures that we have here in the district will attract, retain, recruit talented, diverse, and highly effective workforce of instructional and non-instructional staff in a welcoming environment. And to do that, we know we have to begin by ensuring that we have a capacity in our district of highly qualified talent, so we plan to make sure we evaluate all staff every year at a highly effective rate. This committee had 3 strategic objectives that were identified to accomplish this. The first is to begin to look at our systems and structures and all of our practices that we have here in the district to ensure that they're equitable, inclusive, and support our diverse student population and community. And so some of the key actions identified to do that, we know we need to begin talking about it and just define what diversity, equity, and inclusion, what those words are defined and mean. That's the beginning of rolling out this work. So we know we need to provide professional development, which we have begun, to our faculty staff on just what DEI is and provide to guide this work. We have adopted the New York State culturally responsive and sustaining education framework to help guide these definitions, because these have been defined by the state. They're on the state's website, and districts are using this framework to begin to roll out just how this work should look through the lens of equity, inclusion, and diversity. So that's one of our main key actions, is to start learning about it, defining it, and providing PD, which we have begun. We also know we need to develop a policy around that. So that'll be work with the board, trustees, defining and from the board and governance level what our governance and policy will be around this work on DEI. So beginning to look at that, we have begun to pull some policies and we'll be showing and recommending something to the board. We feel this work needs a laser-like focus. We know we need someone to lead it. We can't spread this thin. We can't add it on someone else's plate. We need a laser focus for someone who's skilled to lead the work around DEI. So one of the actions for this objective was we need to look down the road to hire a DEI administrator, a different title we can come up with, that will facilitate and coordinate and plan this rollout, of course, with the administration in mind. We need to adopt that framework. You heard me mention about this on Superintendent Conference Days, that everything we do in this plan, everything we do over the next 5 years and forevermore, need to be through a lens of equity, diversity, and inclusion, and align with the framework from the New York State, which supports 4 principles of having just what we've heard so far: a welcoming environment in our district, high expectations and rigorous instruction. We need to make sure our curriculum is inclusive as well, and we need to provide ongoing professional development. So as you can see, those 4 principles of the framework are deeply embedded in this action area. We also talked about a DEI consultant. We've begun that work. We had Dr. Daniels here in September for Superintendent Conference Day to just begin to help us understand DEI, to talk from a lens of experience from her work in her previous district on how they rolled out DEI and connected it to the framework. We listed that as an action because that was one time. We're hoping to bring other consultants in doing professional development to help teach us around this framework. When this work is done, we need a DEI committee that's going to be representative of administrators, teachers, and staff, and parents, and the community to lead the work. So the DEI administrator will develop a committee of representatives and stakeholders to help with this plan for how we will roll out DEI aligned with the framework from the state. We need to integrate it, as we have done, into our strategic plan, which is what I'm presenting tonight, and it is documented in phases 1 and 2 that we have added the cultural framework in phase 2, and integrate practices and systems throughout this district. It just comes down to everything we do must be through a lens of that. All our decisions, all our practices, we must make sure they're made through the lens of equity, inclusion, and diversity to mirror our student population, so that that talented workforce that we're aiming for is representative of that. The second strategic objective, second page, thank you, was that we need to have a recruitment model. We know to have a talented workforce, to recruit, retain, and keep a talented workforce in a welcoming environment, we have to have a recruitment plan, a recruitment model, if you will. So our objective was to ensure that recruitment efforts increase, that we partner with colleges and universities to get those candidates, a diverse pool of candidates, to be in our classrooms, in our schools, that are very highly talented in our positions. So some of the actions we said we will do there, we need to look at our posting. We have to do a better job of that. We know that. We need to increase our efforts around how we post, how we recruit, how we hire, and so forth. We need to look at our salaries. We need to do a salary audit to make sure that we're attracting candidates that are highly skilled and talented, and that we're paying them commensurate to that. So an audit is needed to see if our salaries are commensurate with neighborhoods and districts similar to ours. We need to do a better job of onboarding, and once they're here, continuing to mentor our new teachers and mentors and non-instructional and instructional staff. That became a strategy we know we need to do, and include, stakeholders in our interviews. That is something that's in our district. We have a cross-representation on our interviews, but we need to do better to assure that those committees that interview are representative of our community, and we need to also make sure that we provide professional development ongoing here as well. And this is connected to new hires. When they get here, making sure they receive the professional development they miss, and creating a plan to assure that they get that, as well as just beginning to build this model. So that was objective 2, to achieve this. And our last one, next page, please, was to ensure that all district protocols for evaluation of all staff are developed and used effectively. That was our second premier metric. We need to make sure that we're going to maintain and recruit and keep our highly effective workforce. We have to continue to evaluate them using the frameworks that we have aligned with the state of New York, the New York State Teaching and Leadership Framework for formal and formal evaluations. And that's the premier workforce slide. So those are the 5 focus areas. I did not mention who worked with me on premier workforce was Karen Walsh, who's here. And we have Matthew Smith, Dara Donnelly Carroll, who was on the committee, James Thorpe, Lori D'Amico, and Lissa Larragabel. All of them worked closely with me to develop the 5th area of the strategic plan, premier workforce. So we will open it up for questions on any piece of that now, and then we will get into the last and final part of this presentation. I'm sorry, what did you say? Hold on for Mike.
Yeah, I'll grab it. Let me grab a mic.
Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, that's what she needs.
Okay, first of all, very good. I'm pleased that to see the things that I see, and pleased to not see the things that I didn't want to see. So I'm generally happy. I think that this framework will work, although more details will need to be filled in as time goes on. If I look at the premier workforce area, I might add to your highest level objective, I might add the word develop. My thinking is that if I look at the things that are in in a culturally responsive environment, we have a lot of them already. The diversity, equity, and inclusion thing is important. Well, the one thing that when I've looked at those checklists in the past that we have an issue with is that our teaching staff is not as diverse as our student body. And one of the ways around that, if I look at it, while the teachers are not as diverse, usually the teaching assistants or teacher aides, the diversity level is higher. So one strategy you might consider employing is along that development theme of helping people to move from being teacher aides or teaching assistants to being teachers. So if you can recruit to the best of your ability, but you can also grow your own. And so if I were to do anything to that area, I would say that we should work on developing our internal staff and promoting them to being full-fledged teachers.
That's a very good strategy. Thank you. We make note of that. Ivy?
Okay.
Ivy's taking notes.
Yes. I have one other comment, and that's about the facilities area. Okay. I think that what needs to happen is that there's a piece in there where we talk about developing whatever the, let's see if I can find it here, define the educational benefits of a plan, okay? So I'm familiar with this from a previous go-around. We were going to redesign all our schools. I have in my head a set of things that were looked for, and those were, larger square footage per classroom, because you want kids to be able to do things that are creative, and you want them to be able to solve problems in groups, and both of those things either require a bunch of, tools or space for them to get together in little groups. And now that we're away from COVID a little bit, we can start to get back towards that. And so that's what and then you have to do things to the acoustics so the rooms don't become too noisy because you have little groups of people talking here and there. So you want to make the acoustics like that of a library, kind of, so that the sound doesn't stop you from doing what you need to do. So that's my idea of what probably the future classroom should be in terms of technology. I know we've already got laptops for each child. I know we've got smart boards at the front of the room. I know that you have a moving target and that bandwidth increases, available bandwidth, and we find ways of using it as time goes on. So we probably need a kind of a data standard to say, okay, how much do we have to increase our bandwidth over time to keep up with the change of technology? So there's a moving piece there. And then since I don't, while I know generically what I think we need, I think what needs to happen is that we need to map our way back to the educational objectives and have the people who are setting the other goals, the academic goals, tell us what they need in terms of the classroom. I have, as I said, what I think it's square footage and acoustics, but maybe there's more to it than that, or there's something different to it. I want to know what that is, and I want to identify who's going to come back and tell me what I need to do to my facilities to make them better. And are they educational administrators? Who does it?
Okay. I think that was very clear, and we took notes. Thank you.
President Maris keeps asking, what's the final part? Because I think she wants the final part to happen and then the questions.
Okay, then
Yeah,
we'll go
she
to
keeps
that.
saying, what's the final
I'm
part?
sorry, so the final part is for Mr. McCormick to come forward and go over phase 4, what will be the next piece of this work as we are progressing in the strategic plan. So he'll come now, Trustee Maris, and do that.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so I'm just going to ask a question
Okay, so-
in reference to the strategic plan around advanced placement. So when we were speaking, I guess what concerns me is that that is actually a goal when it comes to the advanced placement and not, she did say, don't get me wrong, I heard her say all students, but when it comes to enrichment, when it comes to STEAM, I don't think, in my opinion, that we should take time just to look at our advanced classes. That should be a component, but like you said, all students, and I think all students, I don't think because you're in an advanced class, you should have leadership programs or whatever you were saying, but all students in the Greenberg Central School District should have access to all, and then, I'm not a proponent of the advanced classes, but because of what research shows, but I just don't want us to focus on that. I think because when we're talking about equity and inclusion, that is absolutely the opposite of equity and inclusion. When you start to look at those advanced classes, especially the ALP program in the elementary schools. I know everybody wants their children in ALP, but you gave us the demographic data, and when you look at that demographic data, I mean, I'm looking at 17 white students compared to 5 black and 5 Latino and, the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. And I'm saying, how is that equitable? And what are they getting that all the other students in the school, in that, school are not getting? So that's just my concern around that. I mean, we can flesh it out a little bit more, but we have to really, at this point in time, after the pandemic, after everything we've gone through, it's cute to have advanced classes, but we need to focus on all of our students and give them everything that we can give them. All monies, all enrichments, all STEAM activities, making sure black and brown children have exposure to the sciences, because research shows that they don't. So that's just my piece in reference to that.
We heard that. She wrote that down.
You don't have to, I just wanted to bring that portion up. She doesn't have to say anything about it.
Any other trustee questions? Trustee Pineda?
Okay, I have 2 questions. The first one is around the climate and culture piece. There was a reference to a website being created for SEL. So I just want to know how that will interface and work cohesively, the effort of the communication committee revamping the website with the SEL web piece. Are those 2 committees going to work on that together? How is that being implemented so that there's consistency in the presentation?
Good evening. So we're in the process of looking at a mock website, gathering resources that we would like to have on that SCL tab that's going to be on the district website. It's going to be kind of a multifaceted part of the website, meaning that we're going to have our learning standards that you've heard a lot about publicly accessible right there on the website for all to see. In addition to that, in our effort to increase visibility around our current SCL offerings, and this is where I think there's going to be cross-communication across the communication committee with the SCL, with the Climate and Culture Committee, we're going to be launching the social media sites that were referenced in the strategic plan. It's going to be through, I believe we're focusing on Twitter and Instagram, where we're going to be able to put a lot of the things that are happening in all of our buildings under a global brand of SCL and GCSD. We decided to move away from this is what it looks like in Highview and Bailey and Woodlands. We want to have it be a broad brand of just this is SCL district-wide, focusing on the individual buildings. So with those elements, we're going to also provide resources on this page, which we've done a dive into over the summer during our SCL sessions, which we had steering committee sessions over the summer, as we're aware. We looked at examples and exemplars from around the region of what their SCL pages look like, what kind of information is articulated on those pages, and really honed in on looking at providing resources for our students, our staff, and also the community at large. So this is going to be like a one-stop shop for all of that kind of content, resources, information, and then also in a broader sense, trying to use that platform as a way to start to build capacity within our general community, both internal and external, to understand when we say SCL, what do we mean? What does that look like? So there'll be information on the website just to kind of make that make sense and have a clear definition and a clear overarching approach of what we're trying to get out there, and using our social media and that page to try to get everybody familiar with the different aspects of the learning standards and the frameworks that we're using, which is the CASEL framework and the International Baccalaureate framework. So I think that we'll be able to leverage those to obviously increase communication, certainly around the area of SCL.
Thank you.
Of course.
My second question is around the Premier Workforce piece. There was a line item that said regarding 100% of staff evaluated at a highly effective rate. I may have missed it, but I didn't see a call out regarding developing the staff and helping raise their proficiency to the highly effective rate. How will that be handled?
So we will be using, that's on the back page. If you could go to the back page. We're going to be using the tools from the state that's used to evaluate staff, that has the framework that develops teachers around from developing to effective to highly effective, that clearly defines what that looks like. We'll be using that to evaluate staff, and that will measure who's developing and who's highly effective. We're going to use the tools in place right now to do that.
Okay, and then the last question around that is, as part of that process, as you guys go through that procedure, if someone is found to need additional supports and development, we will be providing that to help raise their acumen, right?
Yes, so we will conduct throughout the year, so we don't wait till the end of the year to do that. We will start doing a lot of informals and formals, using the framework and domains to kind of gather evidence along the way so that we can catch it early and provide support to teachers through support from the coaches, as much as possible, professional development, the PLCs, where we do a lot of professional development there. All of those vehicles we use to help build that capacity, so that when we get to the ultimate evaluation at the end of the year using the formal framework, they're highly effective, or effective to highly effective, so that everyone in front of students is measuring up to that capacity.
Okay, and then my last question is, how much of that will translate to non-teachers?
So non-instructional staff are evaluated every year. They have an instrument, that form of template that they use to do that. We will continue to do that, and as we're doing now, and if there's an employee who's having difficulty, the assistant superintendent for business, who is over non-instructional, will provide professional development, which we've begun in some areas this year, for those new coming on board, new strategies, new skill that you just need. PD is ongoing. We are beginning to plan November 8th now, the November PD, to include some of that. So we will build that for the non-instructional. Theirs is somewhat different. There's no framework for them. that spells out language for how each benchmark looks. The frameworks for leadership and teaching clearly says highly effective looks like this, effective looks like this. So you have a rubric you can use to guide your evaluation that's very objective. Non-instructional just doesn't have that. There are indicators there, but no language that says how that indicator looks on these benchmarks. So looking at evidence and their performances and just what they do, are they measuring that? It really comes down to, I think, mostly yes, rarely, but what rarely looks like is not defined. We know we need to look even at that instrument and possibly even revamp that so it's more relative to the various roles of non-instructional staff. So that secretary and a custodian both using on that have something relative to their skill set. But right now that's what we have in place.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Iverson, on the same subject, 100% is the success metrics. Is that a realistic metric?
Everyone should be evaluated every year. So we see it as rigorous, and you know, when you think about the framework that I mentioned, a welcoming environment, it says high expectations and rigorous practices. We have noticed that if we don't have everyone evaluated every year, it has to happen. That is the only way you keep and retain a highly effective workforce. You need to be able to evaluate them every year so you can support them where they need support and continue to develop them. So yes, it's rigorous. We are committing to that, as we said, that we will do that.
My second question is also on success metrics with communications and I believe SEL. The success metric says to survey. I guess I would like to see not that success metric actually survey what? What is the actual metric? Not to put a survey out, but to collect what kind of data?
Mm-hmm. You want to answer that?
So when we speak specifically to SEL, we're looking at, we've obviously been engaged in this work for multiple years, but we're kind of looking at this as like our year zero to kind of reset our SEL approach. And that work began with our framework establishing a framework and everything that we're doing from there. When you get into data and curriculum efforts, you're going into those really advanced phases of an implementation. So and I think, Ms. Ador had focused on this earlier, our broad goals over the course of this strategic plan and even in a more 2 to 3 year standpoint would be to be able to do universal screening of all of our students around the SEL skill areas that are directly tied to our framework. And then from there be able to do that needs assessment and pair them with specific SEL curriculum to address those areas that are in most need of support. And then you have to have a way to be able to progress monitor what you're doing. Whatever framework you come up with to do screening and provide curriculum, is it working? So these are really like the higher order elements of the plan that we hadn't really focused too much on in our explicit action steps, because they would be more year 2, year 3. What we're focusing on right now is looking at the implications of our climate and our culture. So how do our students feel when they come into their buildings and when they interact with the schools? And then what is happening within the schools, the culture piece that is impacting our student, staff, and community experiences with our district. So in an effort to get a baseline assessment of that, we've partnered with the Hanover research firm to be able to do climate and culture surveying this year. We already rolled that out prior to the end of last school year, 21-22. And we had a rather extensive process that was rooted in our SEL steering committee to try to get as much feedback as we could internally from our students, from our staff, and then also from the community. So what that process really highlighted was the fact that we felt really pretty happy with the level of responses that we got on the first go around, but it certainly also just got us thinking about ways that we can only increase support, tap into other areas of the community, for example. We have access to our staff and students, so that is kind of the easy part. The harder part is being able to get more interaction from parents and the community at large. So as we move along in the course of this upcoming school year, we're going to be focusing our efforts on the climate and culture feedback, doing a root cause analysis of the first wave of data to be able to really help that guide our climate and culture committee's next steps related to what are the pressure points that the feedback is showing that we want to be able to direct our initial efforts towards. And then we will also be having additional surveys as the year goes on to be able to just try to see if we're improving in some of those areas with the things that we're doing. As we move on, we're really in our exploratory phase of trying to get around how do we assess universally for the SEL skills. So that'll be something that our steering committee will be discussing as the year moves on. Thank you.
Are there any more questions? So we will move into the next piece of our presentation. Mr. Ed McCormick is now going to come and talk about what next Phase 4 entails, and then I will come back and close out the presentation.
Good evening, everyone. It's always a pleasure to be here. I've been admonished to make sure that I not recap everything for you, and I will not do that. But I am somewhat anal, and I like to keep the dots connected. But I wanted to thank the administrative team that worked to put together the action plans. The gut of the strategic planning piece is the implementation piece. And of the implementation piece, you'll see the key action plans and the strategic objectives are the things that we were focused on, that we did focus on coming through this phase. So thank the team for giving up some of the summers. People call in from the beaches. They call in from taking the kids to college. They made a sacrifice to participate in this phase. So I appreciate that. The next step is Phase 4. And while I won't recap it for you, but I would ask you to go back and look at the 4 phases and how they connect as you go through the process and how they will connect as we finish the process and able to share this and with the webpage, with the community through the webpage. So so Phase 4 is the board phase. It is a phase that where accountability is the paramount objective, where a lot of people have told you they're going to do a lot of things, and some of it will happen in the first year, some of it will happen in the second year, third year, so forth. But the one body that makes sure that it happens or understands why it is not happening, if that's the case, is we will take care of that in Phase 4 to ensure that there's accountability for the plan. I've asked President Mayers and the superintendent to put together a small committee to develop refine and refresh the metrics to determine what we will measure, the frequency of measurements, how it will be measured, the reporting of that, how often will it come to the board and be done, of course, in public review. So we've done the engagement, we've put together the strategic goals, you've seen the plan, which is of great essence, because no strategic plan works without an implementation plan. And most will fail if they don't put one in. So the implementation plan is extremely important, but from a district-wide standpoint and responsibilities as it relates to the board is also tied up in Phase 4, which is the accountability piece of it. So we will meet probably a couple of hours, put together those metrics and the frequency of reporting and what will be reported at what time. So the metrics will be redefined. Some of the timeline pieces will flesh themselves out, and we'll go from there. Now, that should be the end of the process. The only thing left is we have 4 phases, and we want to distill that down to 2 pages, maybe 3. So the thinking is, and recommendation that I would make is that we have 2 parts for the strategic plan. The first phase is an executive summary of the plan that you can see what it is, and it makes sense looking at the first couple of pages on the web page. The detail and all of the phases that we've shown in the summary of that will also be in the background listed under details, so that if the community wants to crawl through that, if the strategic planning committee wants to see where their work ended up, if the administrative team want to look at all of the things that they have committed to, it will be in on the web page and will live forever as part of the web page. The board members can go back and look through the details if needed, but we will not lose any of this piece of work, of the work that we've done through the phases. So that, excuse me. So that's important. So phase 4 is a very short requirement in terms of time, but extremely important to ensure the integrity and the accountability of the system. Any questions? I'll be happy to on phase 4.
Okay, so what I think I'm hearing is that there will be more and more specific metrics used to measure things, and I happen to be in the finance and facilities. I've been concentrating on that as a board member for the past couple of years. And one of the areas there that you can use as a measuring tool is the building conditions survey, which says, okay, here over the next 5 years, this is what needs to happen in order to ensure the sort of the safety and security and functionality of the current set of facilities, as opposed to, we're going for 21st century classroom, that's above and beyond. But BCS will make sure that the facilities you have are adequate, and therefore that should be one of your measuring tools. Now, one thing I want to be careful of is the BCS, of course, lists hundreds of different items for all of the different buildings. And it lists descriptions of what needs to be done to improve the buildings, and we prioritize those years 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, depending upon which is the most urgent. And each one then has a monetary value to it. And what I don't want to have happen is that we end up with a metric that says the more money you spend, the better you're doing. Because, for example, if somebody replaces a piece of equipment in the bus garage and they only spend $75,000 on it instead of $150,000, I don't want you to say, well, that's nice, but you only spent $75,000. Shame on you. I want that to be a positive thing. So when you look at those metrics, be very careful in how you set them up. It's just a word of caution.
Great, and I agree with that, David. It's that and that will happen. That's the beauty of the strategic plan. It forces the decision-making process to the objectives that have been approved in the plan. So if you have something that starts to paint buildings pink, for instance, and it's not in the strategic plan, then that automatically it would eliminate it. So the metrics will have to conform to the goals and objectives in the strategic plan. So you're absolutely right. And your first comment about if the metrics will be more refined and further refined is absolutely correct as we move to the next step. We put metrics in this section to sort of provide guidelines as the teams were looking at objectives and action plans. Well, we will refine those, and it becomes important. What are the the metrics are not a cookie cutter process. It'll be what the board wants to see, the frequency they want to see it, what will be progress against the aspirational goals as well as the year-to-year changes. So it should be pretty easy, right?
It's going to be a difficult process, and I wish you luck with that, and we'll be talking more. Anyone else?
The other thing, too, Dave, is remember that the action plans, as you look at those and you put the metrics in place, you have the option to change them to, if they are not doing what they're supposed to do and structurally it does not make sense, you have within the framework of the plan, you can change the action plans to get you to something more effective. That's why this phase 4 is so important, because you want to know every year and more frequently in some cases, the things that you're doing make sense and that they are achieving their stated goals. If you see them outside of the boundaries of that, then you have an option to do something else.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
So thank you very much. If there are no further questions, I too want to thank the subcommittees who are here tonight, the members who worked all tirelessly over the summer to meet on your various areas to flesh out what we presented here tonight. I thank you for being here tonight as well. I thank the public for listening, and if there are no further questions, and to the Board of Trustees, thank you for your participation. We will end this portion of the board meeting.
Okay. Oh, let's wait. Okay. Steve, are we live? Oh, no, Steve's up here. Steve, are we live yet? Okay. Great. We're going to move right along through our agenda to our committee reports. Section C3, the time is now 9:25 p.m. And are there any committees who have a report this evening? Yes, Trustee Warner, you have a committee report?
Surely. Okay, I did send out an email, and it has several attachments, which I might refer to as we go along. So if you have your laptop, you can look at that. I have one extra copy that I can pass down if we need to look at as we go along. There's a set of text that I need to go over, and there's like 3 recommendations that are formalized enough to where we have to ask that board's permission at the end. The Finance and Facilities Committee met on September 14th at 6:30 p.m. in the Woodlands Innovation Lab and via Zoom call. You've been provided with draft minutes of the meeting. Thanks to Elizabeth Sedona for providing her very detailed notes. In the interest of time, I will provide a briefer meeting summary. We introduced ourselves, elected David Warner as committee chair, reviewed existing committee charges, meeting dates, and committee membership. We are now a committee of the whole board with non-Board of Education members requesting to join or renew their membership. That's item G1 on tonight's agenda. We adopted minutes of our June 16th meeting and our August 25th facilities tour. In the process of going over the facilities tour and all the pictures in it, we reviewed facilities projects at various stages of completion. Projects completed this summer per Facilities Director Dennis Pugliese: fixed sidewalks, landscape timbers, and drainage at ECP main building, abated asbestos retiled hallways, and replaced all the kindergarten tables with new desks at LF Jackson. Trimmed trees, repaved the nurse's office walkway, and improved drainage at Highview. Installed a new gym floor, and cleaned out asbestos tiles and chairs from the auditorium at R.J. Bailey. Abated asbestos and installed a new gym floor and huddle system at Woodlands. Huddle is the thing that allows you to look at games and televise them. Projects in process. This is per BBS Architects. $20.9 million energy performance contract for all schools. Con Edison Solutions is working on cash flow requirements for this. I'll talk about this more later. $5.7 million Phase 1 ventilation fixes at all schools and the Highview East Wing roof replacement. NYSED finally approved the project in the midsummer that we submitted back in December, and we were scheduled for completion in January, so we're going to be working on it this fall. $515,000 R.J. Bailey roof repair and auditorium upgrade. $500,000 from NYS secured through Assemblyman Tom Abenanti for the auditorium. Thank you, Tom. Project to be submitted to NYSED. Security vestibule at Woodlands, $0.5 million, and $1.3 million roof replacement at the mansion. We are funded, approved, and waiting on materials, with expected completion in December. $114,000 fire hydrant water line replacement. We resolved problems obtaining 3 valid bids for topology report work and are now waiting for the report to be completed in October so we could submit to NYSED. Highview third grade wing windows, the ones that are openable. Cost was $50,000. It got rejected by NYSED. The project is being rescoped with higher grade materials at slightly higher cost. Projects on the horizon. Phase 2, to include building condition survey priority 1 and 2 items, new ECP classrooms, science labs, and the Woodlands track upgrade. Tennis courts, we developed cost estimates. We have to determine a funding source or whether we need to fold it into phase 2 or what we're going to do with it. Electric bus project, researching requirements, costs, and funding sources. Assistant Superintendent for Business Lisa Raymond then reported on our facilities funding. The American Rescue Plan fund includes a $1.6 million allocation for ventilation. It's still sitting there. Balance for capital construction phase 1. Funds were transferred to this category to pay for an estimated $5.7 million phase 1 project. After $172,000 in architecture fees and $4.4 million of bid awards, the balance is $1 million. We're still sitting on $1 million. But plumbing contracts are not yet at award due to lack of bidders. We'll fix that, and we won't have $1 million left, but we'll have more than zero. 22-23, capital interfund transfer. Originally, that's our $1.3 million per year. $507,000 was expended on R.J. Bailey and Woodlands gym floors, and $793,000 has been encumbered for fire hydrant water line project. That leaves $0 in unencumbered balance, so consider that money gone. 2021 excess fund balance, that was $1.4 million. That's minus the mansion roof expenses, and we have $88,774 left. The repair reserve currently balance is $4.3 million. However, it can't be used for replacements. It can only be used for repairs, and legal has a very strict definition of what constitutes a repair. Additional funding is expected after the 21-22 end-of-year audit is complete. So that's kind of what happened in most of the meeting at a high level. And we made several recommendations, and so these are the things you have to deal with. We made the following formal recommendations. First, per a Regeneron employee, Regeneron sometimes donates equipment they no longer use to schools. And this came up in the context of our looking at the third grade science labs at Woodlands, which are in need of upgrades both in terms of the facilities and in terms of the equipment. The committee recommends that the administration send a letter to Regeneron inquiring about equipment donations for Woodlands Middle High School labs.
Does the board approve? What do the rest of you think? Should we go ahead with this recommendation and solicit equipment requests to Regeneron?
So trustees, Trustee Warner is asking for everyone's opinion. So we're going to go down. We'll start with Trustee Long.
I agree. We should send the request.
Trustee Washington?
Yes.
Trustee Pineda?
Yes.
Before I say yes or no, I want to know who's writing this letter. Is it a letter from Dr. Iverson? Is it a letter from Woodlands Middle High School Administration? Is it a letter from the Science Department?
We hand it off to Dr. Iverson, and she decides who writes the letter.
Yes. And Trustee
Yes.
Fallon, thank you.
Okay, so that's unanimous. Yes. Okay. Our 8:25 visit to R.J. Bailey showed that shrubs have been planted along the fence between R.J. Bailey parking lot and the car wash, but these shrubs are not providing adequate coverage. The committee recommends that the superintendent of schools send a letter to the Greenberg Planning Board requesting additional shrubs or other coverage between the car wash and R.J. Bailey. And this is a picture from the tour. If you don't happen to have your laptop on you, we'll pass that along. So basically, you'll see that in accordance with the plans, there are some bushes, there are some shrubs that have been put in along that fence, but they're not filling in most of the fence. So you can go back to them and say, hey, do what's in the plan, and they'll say, we are doing what's in the plan, and there'll still be holes in the fence and noise coming through and all of that.
So you want an understanding from the trustees, right?
Right.
Let's start this way.
So it is okay for, yes, does the committee wish to appeal to the planning department to up the requirements in terms of what needs to happen to isolate ourselves from the car wash?
Thank you, Trustee Warner. Trustee Vallon?
Yes.
I would say yes. Trustee Pineda?
Yes.
Trustee Washington?
Of course.
And Trustee Long?
Yes.
No objection there.
Okay, it's unanimous again. Good. And now here's the more difficult one. Per BBS, Con Edison Solutions may, and I emphasize it's a may, require additional state aid to ensure its energy performance proposal provides positive cash flow for every year of the payback period. Acquiring this aid could require a public vote. The committee recommends we communicate with the public regarding the current state of our proposed energy performance contract. Below is the current information. Does the board approve? Now, I'm going to show you everything that they told us, and this was through BBS. Con Edison wasn't there themselves because they're busy working out the math, but they're supposed to come in next month. And so this is the position we're in, and it may require a bond. It may not require a bond. Do we want to go out and tell everyone and his brother where we're at? And so I'm going to read through this, about a page worth of stuff. The Energy Performance Contract. Con Edison Solutions will provide a full presentation at our October FinFac meeting. We reviewed a preliminary project summary presentation with BBS. First, what's in the project? The project is $20.9 million and includes LED lighting for all the schools, rooftop solar panels at Highview, direct digital controls for all HVAC systems, natural gas for multiple schools, replacement of outside air intakes in all 4 rooftops units at Woodlands, rebuild of the air handling units at Highview and R.J. Bailey, new boilers at Highview, new water heaters at all schools. So if you're worried about certain health issues, that might have a positive impact. Software controls for district computers, timer controls for window ACs, installation of bare piping, replacement of steam traps at Bailey, installation of solar PV carport at Bass at high school football field. Now that's an interesting piece. We'll go over that in a minute. Improved building envelope and weatherization and refrigeration compressors for Highview freezers. So that's $20.9 million worth of stuff they're offering us, right? Pending legislation, the New York State Senate Bill 6307 would allow a 25-year payback period instead of 18 years and allow a $27.5 million project scope. So it could get even bigger depending on what happens at the New York State Legislature this year. But right now, what I just listed for you is still with it will pay it off in 18 years. Outstanding issue is whether a public vote is required to receive state aid and provide positive cash flow for every year of the 18-year payback period. In this case, a December bond would cost about $18,000 based on what it cost us back in 2021 to have a vote not in May, versus $200,000 for a half a year worth of energy cost savings. So it makes sense economically. A zero-cost resolution could be viewed as a non-event, meaning people could just roll over and say, well, it doesn't cost me anything, so might as well go ahead. Or it could create pushback if the public feels we've not provided sufficient notice. Thus, do we want to go out and say, hey, look, we're not really sure yet, but we may need a bond. We may need a bond. Here's what it is, and here's why. BBS is consulting with experts in its Albany office regarding whether a public vote is required to maintain positive cash flow. Review the solar carport and battery energy storage system at the Woodlands football field. Details to follow at the October meeting. Review the distance of the BESS unit from the residential structures. We may need to relocate the BESS. And so, if you don't have your laptop, I'm going to look at the picture at the bottom of this page. You have a picture of the Woodlands High School football field, a large rectangular area that's the dirt parking lot. They're going to cover it with a carport, which is fine. And in the lower right-hand corner is the battery energy storage system. And the problem with it is it's next to residential property. That is, we need to make sure that High Point isn't too close to this. We might need to relocate that. If anybody has any objection to any of this stuff, it'll be that. So I want to pass that around. Take a look at the picture on the bottom. We could move the battery energy storage system to another location, maybe to the top of the north of the carport. We could go back to our old plan, which is to put it where the Morton house is. We'd have to figure out whether that works or not. Okay, but that's the piece that might set people off. Okay, new natural gas lines. If you look at the following pages, they want to add gas lines at Woodlands Middle High School, which we definitely need because our oil tanks are small, at Lee F. Jackson, and at Highview. So that's pretty much what we know right now. Do we want to go out to the public and post things on our website and let everybody know where we're at in case we have to go for a December bond or not? Yes, Ashley.
I just want to clarify something. Some folks are very sensitive to specific words. We have inadvertently used the word bond many times tonight. There is no bond. This is specifically a vote. So the conversation is whether or not we will decide to go out to the public in December or sometime around then, maybe a little bit after that, and ask for a public vote so that we can receive the state aid ratio that we would currently get on our EPC project, or whether we're not going to do that. But there's no bond at all here. This is all about whether we need to have that vote or not to receive that additional state aid. So I just want to clarify that because we said bond a few times.
You are correct. All right. So what are people's opinions?
Just to clarify, Trustee Warner, it's the 10% cash flow may be required, but if we got a vote of approval to pursue the ECP and we didn't need the cash flow, that would be 10% additional funds available for extra projects. Is that correct?
That is correct, to the best of my knowledge.
I think if we communicate with our community and keep them abreast, I mean, I'm going to take a jump and say 90% of the community members and parents that the children go to these schools, they understand the repairs that were needed for many, 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 many years. So I think communicating now, whether you use any type of word, but just letting them know that there might be a plan out there, I think makes sense, because the more we communicate, the more people have information, the more that they'll feel comfortable and trust the process. So that is my opinion. Communicate, 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 communicate.
Okay, so Trustee Long, are you okay with this plan to, I believe Trustee Warner asked whether or not the committee recommends that who is the we? The district communicate with
We, the district, communicate using all our communication channels to let people
with
know
the public
where we are.
regarding the current state of our proposed energy performance contract. So are you okay
Blue
with
banner,
that?
whole 9 yards. Yep.
Yes.
Trustee Washington?
Yes.
Trustee Pineda?
I am. I just want to clarify one thing. Trustee Along, just for clarity purposes, we do not need approval to perform the energy performance contract and execute it. The approval we need is just to get the additional state aid if we decide to go for a vote. But absolutely, yes, I do support that. Thank you.
I would clarify that they're not. I think one of the reasons that Con Edison did not show up at the meeting yet and rescheduled for October is they're trying to make it work, and there are two ways to make it work. One way to make it work is to get a rules clarification from Albany that says, no, you don't really need it to get this level of aid from us. You only need it for a greater level of aid. If that doesn't work, then they'll come back and they'll have to rescope the project, because they are legally required not only that the thing should pay off at within 18 years, but they have to have positive cash flow every year of the project. So that's a requirement, and they're trying to meet that requirement.
So I was saying yes, and Trustee Vallon?
Before I say yes, I would like to further recommend that as soon as possible, we don't just discuss the current state of our proposed energy performance contract, but but before we have all of the details, we can begin discussing what is an energy performance contract, and I would love to have a brief discussion of that at our next meeting. So yes, and please consider what I just said. Thank you.
I would agree with you, but I would also say maybe even on the website, just a very simple Q&A. Like simple. All of the intricate levels and detail, just a very, what is energy performance contract? How does it save money or not save money? And what happens if the board chooses to go for a vote to support this project versus not? It's very, very simple. I think that would make me feel happy. Yes, Trustee Vallon.
And to help facilitate that, I have in my email, and I've already shared a template that we could basically copy-paste. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So Trustee Warner, you got yeses to all of your...
And I say yes, too.
Okay, great.
The meeting adjourned at 9:38 p.m. The next meeting of the Finance and Facilities Committee is Thursday, October 20th at 6:30 p.m. at the Woodlands Middle High School Innovation Lab or via Zoom call. A Zoom registration link will be provided on the online district calendar. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any trustees have any questions about the report? Trustee Washington?
I guess I want to make a statement in reference to some of the repairs. You had stated that they did the gym at R.J. Bailey, they did the gym at Woodlands, and I just want to make it note that we've done the gym at Bailey before, and we've done the gym at the high school before. So, we know they need a new roof. We know they need windows. So, I'm not taking away, but I don't want to hear in the next 5 years we did the gym again. Because I was there when they did Bailey's gym, and they literally just did Woodlands gym before the pandemic. So you see what I'm like?
Small gym.
Small gym. So what I would like is some of the bigger projects that you talked about, for us to really start to say, look, this has been done. And I know that you're working on that. And thank you so much for the auditorium at R.J. Bailey. So just so we can say that we really want this governing body to really make a point. A lot of our repairs have to be done. There's no more excuses. They have to find the money, and it needs to be done for our children.
Thank you.
Okay, Thank you. Any other questions for the Finance and Facilities Committee? Trustee Warner, I just wanted clarification on the tennis courts at the Woodlands Middle High School. Would those be considered repairs or replacement? If the
I believe those are considered to be replacement because they're in bad enough shape to where you're going to have to put in an entirely new surface with new material. So then the money you're sitting in the repair reserve fund technically won't work. So then either you find someone who wants to donate money, if we can get that to happen, and you fast track it. And if you can't find someone who's a tennis donation, then you roll it into phase 2. Okay, and then we have to figure out what goes in phase 2, what comes to the top, what gets bumped, and you put it on the queue for that. That's the default if you can't get another funding source sooner.
Thank you. So would a repair be something like, I don't know, the speakers in the gym, large gym not working, repairing that?
If you repair the speaker, then it's a repair. If you replace the speaker, it's a replacement.
Well, see,
if
I would
you
say
fix
we
the
repair
hole
the
in the
tennis
R.J.
court,
Bailey
but you're
roof,
telling me-
the $50,000 that we've got set up to replace the R.J. Bailey roof, that is a repair. If you replace the roof, that is a replacement. If you put a new roof on it,
Yeah.
so you can patch, but
So-
you can't.
And I
replace.
can't recall, if I have to rely on my memory, it would be a mess. So I can't recall whether or not in the meeting, someone asked for like a list of repairs versus replacements, just a very basic list.
They asked
They
that-
did.
Yes, because there are descriptions, there are text descriptions in the building conditions survey.
Yeah.
And they use the word replace versus the word repair.
So are we going to get a list or?
So you can either look at the text descriptions in the existing items, or you could put a column into the thing that says this is a repair versus
Yeah.
this is a replacement.
I just want something to get done. So if there's $4.5 million sitting there, I would like for some sort of project, whether it's a hole in the roof, whether it's, well, you said you can't do the tennis courts, but I just want to actually like move toward executing something tangible so that we can repair something.
Correct. We are repairing and
okay.
replacing many things.
All right. Okay. Any other, Trustee Pineda?
Sorry, there was a lot said today. The one thing I'm wondering, and Dr. Iverson, Ms. Raymond's not here, so I'm going to ask you if you can follow up on this. What would be the process we would need to follow to take a portion of the $4.3 million that's sitting in the repair reserve fund and transfer it over to the capital reserve fund so that we can start using that money for further capital projects? We already have a plan for the EPC. We have a plan in place for phase 1, but we don't have a plan yet financially for phase 2 and or other things that are coming along the pipeline. I'm wondering what it would take to move that money around. I'm presuming it's a public vote, but we should probably start looking into that. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Pineda. Any other trustees? No? Then we will close out this section. Please forgive me all. I forgot, not forgot, I bypassed Section C2, Board President's Report. I am tabling that, but I just did not officially stop by that location when we returned from the strategic plan. So the time is now 9:49. That was a long report. Any other reports from the committees? Any upcoming committee meetings we need to inform the public of? I feel like the Education Committee meeting is coming up soon. Was that what you were going to say, Trustee Valen? Awesome. Do you have the date on the tip of your tongue? I know you do.
The Education Committee meeting is this Thursday at 6:30 p.m. at the Woodlands Middle High School Innovation Lab, which is across from the cafeteria and down the stairs.
Thank you so much, Trustee Valen. All are welcome, right, Trustee? Trustee Warner usually says that. Okay, let's move on to item C4, public comments. Ivy, do we have any? Oh, the sheet magically appeared. Thank you. We do have 3 public comments. First on our list is Ms. Samantha Ives. Thank you.
Am I on? I'm on. Good evening, Hi Board. Thank you for having me. Thank you for being here. I want to start my public comment by acknowledging that my family is off to a good start, thanks in no small part to Ms. Rossi, Mr. M. Their communication so far has been amazing. My teachers are incredible. I'm loving the communication. So thank you for them. I would like you to know that they're doing an excellent job. I also just want to take a moment and acknowledge our student athletes. Congrats to the football team for the homecoming win, but also I want to really acknowledge our female athletes. Our soccer team also had a win on Saturday, and I made it to the game and was very impressed by the athleticism and the polish of our cheer squad. They are athletic, make no doubt. But I'm up here tonight because I would like an update, please, on my comments from last year. I'd like to revisit our accountability system for the school nutrition program. As of now, what have we put in place regarding parent and community involvement in the nutrition program? That was a big discussion last year. I'd like to know, please, will nutrition be considered hand in hand with SEL as we consider the whole child? What have we put in place to track and report the quantity, quality, and substance of school meals? I can tell you mine are already complaining a little bit about not having enough to eat. How are we communicating to families regarding free and reduced school lunch forms, the My School Bucks app, and other costs families may encounter now that it's not all free? For example, my daughter has options at Bailey in food for purchase that my son doesn't have at Highview, and navigating this is a system of trial and error. I'm running ahead. I promise I'll stop short, but a quick question that I don't expect answered tonight, but I would like to know regarding Trustee Warner's presentation on the energy performance contract, that if we are looking at solar, considering solar is amazing, why are we also considering natural gas? I will do some digging on my own also, but those two things do not go hand in hand, and solar is better economically and environmentally if we can do it. I will relinquish the rest of my time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Ives. Dr. Iverson?
Ms. Ives, can I ask you to put that in an email to me, those questions? I was trying to keep up with you, and just send it to me. I appreciate it. Thank you, and I'll follow up on those.
Thank you. And next on our list for public comments is Jessica Muldoon, and she's speaking on communication.
Good evening, everyone. And thank you for being here tonight and everything you've presented. So I just want to talk about communication, especially as I've shared with some of you, communication with parents was extremely piecemeal at the start of this year, and I wanted to give you some experiences from a parent's point of view. First, technology. An email was sent out on August 30th that device pickup was available the following 2 days from 1 to 4 p.m. That short notice and the hours of availability made it impossible for working parents. The message also said incoming parents without a device could go pick one up. What about kindergarten students? Are they considered incoming if they were in ECP the year before? Were they not already considered part of the district? Kindergarten parents were very confused on what to do. There was also no mention of pre-K students. Easier to have been said, nothing has to be done for pre-K students at this time than not to mention them at all. If we are a pre-K to 12 district, we need to be messaging pre-K to 12. I also am wondering, were school principals aware of this messaging? And if they could have sent it out, would it have been clearer? I am sure they received many questions that could have been avoided with clearer communication ahead of time. Last piece, not quite with technology, but along these lines, for the bus orientation that occurs for ECP, can new kindergartners or all new elementary students be invited? It would be important for their safety to also be part of a bus orientation. Just adding on to what Sam shared about school meals, we've heard you discuss the change in federal funding for school meals. However, there's been an inconsistent message about who needs to return the meal forms. Without data from every parent, the data is incomplete, so there should be encouragement that everyone returns those forms. In order to get information about school bucks, you need to click 3 links on the district website to get information. While the app is easy, it's hard to figure out when you don't know your student ID number, no one can get you that ID number, or your child is still enrolled at a previous school until a few days before the school year starts. Information about school bucks needs to be shared out because students K through 2 had never used these prior to this year. Third is supplies. I'm going to talk briefly about supplies, but I will let you know supplies were the talk on the playground, in parent chat groups, and at play dates. Why is it so difficult to get one consistent list of supplies? I alone did 3 runs for one child and then did another run for my second child. I can't imagine parents who have 3 or 4 children in the district. Teachers probably know at the end of the year what they need, especially teachers in the specials. A consistent list can be sent out with an additional information may come from your teacher. I understand an additional list from the teacher came, supplies that make sense, but at this point, with inflation and supply issues, parents want to get out when the sales are in the beginning of the summer and supplies are in stock. These, and I'm going to quote one of my colleagues who's also an educator and a parent here, these are the easy things. They don't have the emotions. This is not a child who has a learning need in front of you. Decisions can be made, information can be communicated out, and it can be consistent. These will help parents be more engaged. There is no doubt over the last week and a half, parents want to be engaged. We need to be making more opportunities for them to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Muldoon. And I'm going to add, I appreciate your honesty and candor. It's not always easy to hear feedback if it's not, glowing and wonderful, but we do need to hear that feedback. Majority of your board are current parents, and so we do understand the concern, and we will continue to try to get clearer communication as well as get feedback on when things don't work nicely, don't fit nicely. So thank you. And please continue to speak up and let us know how things are going. Okay, next on the agenda is Naima Cook from ECP. Thank you, Ms. Cook. You have 4 minutes. There should be a green light on there. That means it's on.
Hi, good evening, Dr. Iverson and the board. I'm actually an alumni of Woodlands. I graduated in 1999, so I do know Jamal. I'm sad that he's not here today. And it's funny because I was excited to have a full circle moment and to bring my daughter into the ECP program this year. However, I cannot say that my excitement has been met with the level of preparation that I would have expected it to be met with. I want to echo some of the experiences that Jessica Muldoon shared. I'm a big believer of how we start is indicative of how we finish. And the expectations that we put forth for our youngest of students is going to prepare us for success and ultimately the graduation rates, the college acceptance rates that we want to see in the future. If we don't have these high expectations for our earliest students, we are fooling ourselves by calling this a school versus a daycare program. I learned that the expectation is for students not to learn how to read in early childhood program. That is unacceptable. If the district wants to attract, retain, invested families as well as staff, we have to set higher expectations for all students. And I was happy to hear Dr. Iverson speak about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think a piece that is oftentimes missed when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion is how are we meeting the needs of students who are already meeting and exceeding expectations. And I just want to echo another piece around my experiences here in the district. There was a great parent event that the parents put on at Lee F. Jackson to introduce new students to the district. However, there were no bathrooms open and accessible for students and guests to go to for a 3-hour event, and there was juice and water. My daughter came home one day and said no one provided her lunch. When I did look in her book bag the following day, I saw that she had a Pop-Tart with like frosting on it. And I said, I haven't seen one of these since like 1985. And when we know better, we do better. And I think when we're talking about high expectations for students, it goes from our communication, which I believe has lacked basic rubric checks of who, what, when, where, why, and how. If we don't, if we're not able to articulate those things in an email communication or any communication, we have to question why it needs to be sent out in the first place. My question is, why can't we achieve excellence here in this district? And how much more money do we need to pay in taxes in order to do that?
I'm sorry, were you done with your public comment? Oh, okay, great. Nice to meet you. Ms. Cook? What? Oh, can you hear me? Yeah. So you said a lot. I tried to write quickly. You said a few things. How we start is indicative of how we finish. I think the board kind of is in agreement with that. The board has high expectations for ECP as well. I'm not an educator, but I would disagree just a little bit that kids have to read. I don't think you said that. I think you said the expectation. I personally, with ECP, you know, I've had 2 children go through that program. One read already before she even got there. One wasn't reading when she left even. So I think it's the needs of that particular child that does need to be assessed by the teacher and does need to be addressed. So if you have a child that is budding reading, learning to read, or already reading, yes, that should definitely be the goal, stronger reading with that. But if you have a child that maybe needs some more emotional support, maybe has some difficulty reading, that needs to be assessed and that needs to be supported, in my opinion. But I'm just one person and I'm not an educator. But I definitely would agree with you with regard to high expectations. I think everyone here has that. I definitely hear Dr. Iverson talking about that. I'm sorry that you've had that experience there. I would love to hear more if you do speak with the superintendent offline and find out what has happened, that you didn't feel like there were high enough expectations there for your child. I would also say, you said there was a welcoming event at Lee F. Jackson. That was wonderful. That was 3 hours. There was water, but there was no bathrooms. I'm looking at that as more of a collaborative issue for the superintendent to hear about, because I know that event. I was on the PTA that actually started that event, and that is a PTA event. If there were no bathrooms open, that's because there must not have been some sort of collaboration with the need for a bathroom and or having the building open. So I don't know, Dr. Iverson, if you want to look into that for the future. The PTAs, as far as I know, elementary level, do that every single year. I don't know if that could be an option. That's something that they would have to collaborate on. And lastly, I do have to tell you, I strongly disagree that we cannot achieve excellence here in this district. I have 3 children here. I can tell you there are children who are absolutely excellent that leave this district. And tonight, our student ex officio members are not here. But if you meet those children and have one conversation with them, you will know that they have excellence in their future. They are doing excellent things now. And they will be excellent students. So I don't know if that's what you meant, but I wanted to address that part, that we definitely have some students that have achieved excellence here. We need to do better. We need to have more students, if not all students. I saw 100% on the strategic plan. It's a hard goal to reach, but I think we need to have more students achieving excellence as they leave this district. I don't know if any other trustees have any feedback, but I did want to address that. I know I'm not supposed to. That's probably why you're glaring at me, Trustee Valen. Okay, I'm done rambling. Anyone else? No? Okay, thank you for your comment. Next, we will move on past public comments because we are all done. No more public comments. We have work session approvals. D1, personnel instructional items. Can I get a motion, please?
I move that we approve the instructional personnel items presented to the board for approval this evening.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next, we have work session approvals. Number 2, personnel non-instructional items. Can I get a motion?
I move that we approve the non-instructional personnel items presented to the board for approval this evening.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next, we have work session approvals. Number 3, board action items.
I move that we approve the board action items 2 through 4 presented to the board for approval this evening.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Is there any discussion? Trustees, if you need the board action items, those can be found on, there's no page numbers. It's number G. And there is 1 through 4, but Trustee Valen has moved that we approve 2 through 4. Hearing no discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next, we have section D, excuse me, D.
Yeah.
Yes, Trustee Warner?
You're talking about G1. Do you want to make a motion to amend item G1?
Well, we're going to deal with that when we get down to the G. Right now, we're still on D. Work
Okay.
session approvals, item D4, finance items. Can I get a motion?
I move that we approve the finance items presented to the board for approval this evening.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Items, excuse me, lost my place.
I move that we approve the pupil personnel services item presented to the board for approval this evening.
Second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved in second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any, all those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next, we have, sorry, I totally got lost on my spot.
I would like,
Thank you. Next, we have item G1. Is there a motion to approve item G1?
I would like to suggest an amendment
We need a
to that.
motion first. Is there a motion to approve item G1?
No.
I move that we approve item G1. Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Is any discussion?
Discussion, please.
Trustee Valen?
I would like to recommend that we amend this item. In addition to correcting the work session to take place on January 10th, I believe we also need to correct the regular meeting in January to be January 24th, as we originally discussed in June. The date that was approved in July was January 17th.
Ivy?
That was already done in August. The board amended that in August.
Okay.
The August 2nd meeting.
Thank you. I wasn't here that day.
Okay, is there any further discussion?
No.
Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have, sorry, turning quickly. Thank you. J1, closing items. Discussion, the fall retreat. Hold on, I just got to open back up my board docs. So, team, we have the option, and the governance committee in the past has recommended that we have retreats. We have the option of having a retreat. Would you all like to have a retreat? Because it's a discussion.
Yes, I would like to have a retreat.
Trustee Warner, yes. Trustee Along, we'll go around. Trustee Along?
Yes.
Trustee Washington?
Yes.
Trustee Pineda?
Yes.
Okay, Trustee Valen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hold on, my agenda's a little different. Hi. Okay, so we've agreed that we're going to have a retreat. Now we need to look at when we could have a retreat. There were some dates that were suggested in the past. I'm pulling up my calendar that we all had worked off of. And in fall retreat options, actually, we just went out to October 1st. That was kind of the furthest that we went. Is everyone available on October 1st, or do we need more time to look at our schedules?
I thought Trustee Pineda was not.
I'm sorry, you're not available?
I'm not on October.
Okay, so we're going to need to do more scheduling options. Maybe we'll have Ivy talk to poll the board on availability in October. And then
Can you go into November if you don't have anything? Okay.
Mm-hmm. If there's nothing in October, we can definitely move into November. I thought I had given a list of what was to be on public items on this. So we need to talk about if we have a retreat, which is yes. It was if our location, I think, was another one. So it was the location. Where would you guys like to look for the retreat location? Would you like to have one here? Would you like to do it elsewhere? Any opinion, any feedback on that? Yes, Trustee Pineda?
My opinion is we just do it here.
Okay, here it is. I found it. Thank you. So you would like to do it here. Anyone dissent with that idea? I would disagree with that. I would like to do it off campus, but let's see what people think. Trustee Warner?
I have no opinion. I have done it both ways, and
That's
I'm
not
fine with
helpful.
either one.
You want to be here or you want to be away?
I do not care.
That's so not helpful. Trustee Along?
I know that's not what you want me to
I
say,
know,
but
it's
that's
okay.
the truth.
It's all right. Trustee Along?
On campus.
Okay, Trustee Washington?
I never wanted on campus. No.
Trustee Pineda?
Okay, I'll repeat what I said before. I want it here.
Trustee Valen?
For this one, I would like to do it here. I do have a question about the length of the retreat, and I would suggest that at mid-year, we go off campus.
And you would suggest what off campus?
I'm throwing a lot at you, so the simple answer is here.
Okay, thank you. So what I had put on here for public content was the date, which we can't figure out very easily, the time. So that was, I think you said something about that, the amount of time that we would need. Does anyone have any opinion about that?
My opinion is you can do something like 9 to 1.
4 hours.
Or 9 to 2.
4 to 5 hours. Does anyone else have any feedback on that? Is everyone okay with that? I'm fine with that. Okay, no one's, don't all talk at the same time. Okay, so 4 to 5 hours, location and facilitator. Do we want to have a facilitator at this retreat?
The last retreat, we had someone from NYSA, right? Was that?
The last one we did was with Carol and us alone.
Oh, that's right. That was a summer, so I
Mhm.
wasn't there for that. but the one prior, we had someone
From NISBA.
NISBA. I thought that was very, very helpful, and I thought having an outsider come in actually was innovative, and it re-energized me. So my suggestion is to do something like that again.
Okay, Trustee Warner?
I think we have some sort of contractual obligation to come up with some sort of goals for the year, correct? And we can look at what we already have out there in terms of a plan that we've submitted to NYSED, but I don't think we should limit it to that.
David,
So we
do
need
you
to
wanna
look at a set of goals that we expect to have achieved by the end of the year. And we now have a preliminary draft of, we now have a phase 3, and we can make sure that our goals fit in with that.
Do you want a facilitator? Or you want to?
Sure, we can have a facilitator.
Okay, so Trustee Long, facilitator?
Yes, facilitator that helps establish goals.
We're going to
linked
get to
strategic
that.
plan.
Trustee Washington, you want a facilitator?
I already said yes.
I know. Trustee Pineda?
I honestly cannot answer that question until we define what is being discussed in
Okay,
the
so
retreat.
we'll come back. Trustee Valen?
That's what I was going to say. I think we need to know what we're covering before
Great.
we
So
decide
let's-
our resources needed.
But what do you say, President Maris? Because now we have 3 people to 2.
I definitely think we need a facilitator. So
So
let's
then-
look at what type of things we would cover at a fall retreat. So Trustee Warner, you said you want to do goals, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Trustee Long, you co-sign that you want to do goals. Trustee Washington?
Communication.
Trustee Pineda?
I just need to clarify. Trustee Washington, when you say communication, are you talking about communication protocols amongst administration and the board, or do you mean communication outwards to the public?
I think it should be communication out to the public, communication to each other, communication with administration, communication with administration to the board. I think because we need to continue to learn how to communicate to each other for the benefit of our students.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. I agree with Trustee Washington. In terms of the goals, I would be fine with that, but I think that becomes a board meeting for that portion, right? And then the rest of it would be what Trustee Washington mentioned. And in that case, I would need a facilitator for the communication piece.
So I'm going to say communication, no goals. I think the strategic plan is still not set. We're doing goals off of what, although I think maybe if it were a later retreat and we've kind of solidified a little bit stronger some of our strategic plans, and I'll be okay with that, but most importantly, communication. That can take the full 4 to 5 hours. Trustee Valen?
Okay, Ashley read my mind. I think communication, as it falls under teamwork, is what we really need to be focusing on. I do think the goals definitely are part of a board meeting. I think we're going to be going over goals probably before we can manage to get this scheduled, either as part of a board meeting or a special meeting or what have you. There are contractual obligations, yes, and there's also the finishing off of the strategic plan. So, long-winded way of saying teamwork, communications, facilitator. Thank you. And then the mid-year retreat can be, where are we in our goals?
You said teamwork, facilitator. What's the third thing you said?
Communications.
Thank you. Wonderful. Okay. So it looks like a majority of the folks want to talk about communication, and we can flesh that out a little bit more. We will look for a facilitator. We are here, I guess, at Woodlands for location. We are going to work on the date, and we're going to do 4 to 5 hours. Okay. Any other questions, discussions, anything we're missing with regard to the fall retreat? No? Okay, next we have new business. That's supposed to be, yes?
Go ahead, finish.
Oh, I see something there that should be deleted, that's all. Trustee Washington?
Okay, you could tell me if this is the appropriate time to say this, but we had a parent come up and share concerns with us, and I need to know the protocol of the board. Because,
So you mean my response? Oh, I'm not supposed to respond. I know I broke the rules.
well,
Sorry.
okay, so that's number one. I believe everything she was saying was administrative. So I would have liked for the superintendent, even if President Mayer says something, I would have liked for you to connect with the parent, because, you know, she did not seem happy with just a little bit of her experience. It doesn't mean that's going to happen for the whole year. And there were some concerns. I think you did inform us in reference to ECP and the food, right? You told us something had happened. So she had valid concerns, and I don't want her walking away feeling that because she had a different perspective than our experience with our kids, that her experience wasn't validated. And so protocol for us, we have to be consistent with it. And the other thing, because I do not like me staring at someone with a concern and I can't open my mouth. So, you know, it is discipline for me to keep my mouth shut. And I really don't know how we can make that parent, or just in general, make that parents know that we care, but without us saying something. So that's something I would like us to get very clear, because I'm very disturbed by that interaction that just took place.
So we do have a governance committee, so maybe we can, Chris, you're the chair, Trustee Valen, you're the chair of that. Maybe you can make a note to discuss that. How do we, so number one, we know the rule is we're not supposed to speak, so I was the one that broke the rule. But also, how do we let the parent know that we're
that the board is
listening, that
concerned,
we care,
exactly.
we're concerned, if we can't speak at all. So that is a concern, and I think that's fair. Also, if a person, parent, community member has a concern that's administrative, you're saying you want an administrative, some sort of acknowledgement?
Well, Dr. Iverson, you want to say something, Dr. Iverson?
Yes, ready?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just was recapping what in my head what you said. but
So
okay.
this is what we've been doing. The protocol is what we've been following, that when we have public comment, a lot of reasons why we cannot respond, because we don't always have answers right then and there. But for every public comment, I do follow up. An email. You saw what I said to Ms. Ives. I know Ms. Cook. I will email her, make a phone call to her, and discuss her concerns and answer. I do address every public concern when they're posed here with questions. So that feedback is given to the presenter or the person speaking.
So the last parent, you
Ms.
knew
Cook.
who she was?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great, perfect.
She was
'Cause
at
that's why I was a
ACP.
little concerned that, you know, there was no way of us being able to contact her, and I didn't want her to feel
No.
that we did not take her concern. So
There's
as
also-
governance, Trustee Valen, if we can maybe come up with a statement where parents might understand when they come up, we might not be able to get to them right away, but the superintendent will just say, thank you for your concern, I'm taking notes, please give me time to be able to answer that. Because I just think that just shows that we're all in this together.
Thank you. Trustee Washington, I also want to clarify, and you guys don't all get to see this sheet, but there is emails on this sheet.
Oh,
so that
perfect, okay.
People can
Yeah,
be
'cause we don't get to see
contacted,
the sheet.
even if we didn't know who they were. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, because I was
yeah.
really disheartened by that last interaction.
Yeah, and I'm sorry for that. It was very, you're right, it is hard not to speak or share your experience. I am obviously very sensitive to any comments that seem as if our children are not excellent, so I think I took heart to that, but you're right. That was something that Dr. Iverson could have and will, I guess, respond and speak with Ms. Cook. Can I ask that the board be apprised of these responses, since we're here when we get the comments? We don't necessarily know what the response is, I guess, offline. So we don't ever know that, as Trustee Washington asked, if the parent or community member can be contacted. We don't ever know that that happens because we don't see it. So maybe we can be on that response if it's a statement made at a board meeting.
Are you asking that the response that I send copy the board?
Yes.
All right, so I'm sorry, I'm just going to go through it quick. I just want to first, we talked about, Samantha Ives said, congratulations to the football team for winning during homecoming. And Dr. Iverson, I'm very happy. It was a beautiful day. The scoreboard was working, and our students did win the football team. But just looking forward, homecoming is not just about the football team winning. It is a senior experience. So as you are doing the calendar for next year, if this is going to be the September homecoming, which usually homecomings are in October, but if you choose that it's going to be September, can we communicate to the parents, maybe, or the senior class advisor, or the junior class advisors in April and May, so they can prepare? Because a lot of the senior experience, because I'm coming from an alumni perspective, a parent, a teacher, a senior class advisor, an administrator, and now a board member perspective, that there's a lot that goes on for homecoming, to the point where seniors have their own senior t-shirts, they sell t-shirts, it becomes the battle of the t-shirts, the pep rally happens. I mean, the whole week they go around painting banners, and it's just so much of a great senior experience. Sometimes they have senior night. It is a big event that I want to give credit to the senior class advisors for being there, Trustee Jamal and Trustee Valen and Trustee Mayers for really supporting the seniors. But I just want, because they did a great job in this little bit of time, September 17th, the second week of school, I believe the football team was happy, and I think everybody was happy, but there's so much more to homecoming that I feel like more communication and collaboration, it would have been even more of a great experience for our children. On the calendar, we had a back-to-school night that was virtual, right? It was the Bailey School night on the calendar, and it was changed to in-person. I don't know if any of the board members you knew that we get communication on that, because I had several people just asking me, why is it now from virtual to in person? I'm sure the parents were happy it was in person. I'm sure they didn't have any problems. You probably were happy. But it would have been nice just for us to have communication, just so we just know, because it was on the calendar. Anytime there's something on the calendar as a district, if we need to change it, it's just good for information. And in reference to homecoming, and I don't know if you're getting away from it, but I'm not saying to go crazy with it, but we still have phone blasts. So it would have been nice for homecoming just to hear a phone blast saying, come out, support our kids. I know we had it on the website. We also have text messaging. We have that opportunity to text message a parent and say, come out to homecoming, and phone blast. So this is also a part of communication. We really want our community to be more engaged. So I'm hoping that you and the technology team will start to use the resources that we have to really promote these events. I'm not saying to overwhelm parents, but I do believe somebody might pick up the phone, somebody might look at their text, somebody might look at the website, somebody might get a flyer. Multiple means multiple entry points, so we can really be supportive. And I'm sorry, and that's it for me tonight.
I do have a question about homecoming. I don't know if Dr. Iverson can answer, or maybe someone who's been through the process, one of the senior parents on the board, but is there a kind of like a debriefing after this major production, or do we kind of just go on to the next event? Is there ever feedback given, or?
I will check to see. I normally no. I've not had any debriefing on the homecoming. I'll take these comments in consideration.
Okay. Is there any other new business? Yes, Trustee Valen.
Since we're on the topic of homecoming, I'd first like to thank the a number of elementary school parents who showed up at both the girls' soccer game and the football game. It was nice to see not just alumni and current students and parents, but also our younger crowd. So I'd like to thank those of you who showed up. I'd also like to pass along a message that I heard from a number of them, and that's that they would like to more easily find the athletic schedule on our website and our social media. I know our athletic director creates a weekly summary of athletic events weekly summary. So it'd be great if we could somehow get that summary posted either on the top page of our website every week, as well as our social media, so that anyone interested in seeing all of our games could find that information. Or at a minimum, it could be shared with the principals to send in their weekly or daily packets to the parents. Thank you.
Trustee Valen, I do want to, I guess I'm trying to figure out how to ask this question. Structurally, the athletic department is one person, but we used to have one person as an administrator and one person as a, I guess, secretarial support. And when you're talking about updating that information and or getting that information out, that's more of a supportive position, right? Like a secretarial supportive. And I'm not sure, I guess, Dr. Iverson, if what the structure is for that, and if that structure maybe needs to change or improve or increase to be able to do that sort of request. Trustee Valen?
I was just going to say the document does, I don't know who creates the document, but the document does get created. The document does get created weekly. I can't speak who does the work, but since the document is there and it is posted on the athletic department website, I'm just asking that it be shared with at least the 5 principals or something for it to be disseminated somehow at a minimum. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other new business at all? Trustee Pineda?
I just want to confirm, are we having a conversation on what an EPC is and all those details at a next board meeting or not? Because if we're not, I can give or Trustee Warner, I would volunteer, he's the Finance and Facilities Committee Chair, could give a quick 2-minute spiel as to what an EPC is, because that's a valid point. Not everybody knows what that means.
Yeah, I would love for you to give a 2-minute spiel, and then when we plan the next agenda, we can decide if we want to include that.
Okay, so an energy performance contract is something in which an external entity, usually a contractor of some kind, comes along, evaluates a facility, and figures out what kind of energy savings you can come up with. That is, if they put some work into modifying your facilities and such that they are more energy efficient than they used to be, then you're going to save money on your energy bills. And as a result of that, the net effect is that they're financing based upon those net savings, and as a result, you don't end up taking any more money out of your pocket, but they manage off of that energy savings to pay for those repairs and or upgrades to your facilities. Thus, you can do $20 million worth of work to the district to make it more energy efficient, and over a period of 18 years, that will pay for itself. So that's what the concept of an energy performance contract is, and that's why it's such a good thing for us, because then we can get a lot of much needed repairs and upgrades without taking more money out of our pockets.
Thank you, Trustee Warner. Does anybody want to add anything? That sounded great. No? Okay, and then we will decide whether or not to add that as an agenda item, maybe discuss again. Dr. Iverson's going to look into the FAQs to put somewhere on the website for people to find easily.
Yes, we'll work with you and Lisa to get the questions the most prevalent questions we think we need to have, and the responses, and get it up. Okay.
Okay, any other new business? Hearing none, there's just one thing I did want to talk about, which falls under communication again. I've been hearing from several parents about concerns that
they're not getting replied to quickly through emails, not necessarily from like teaching staff, really from different administrative staff or director staff. They're outreaching and they're not getting replies. I know that we've had several conversations about, my opinion of the reply time, but I need to know if there is an expected reply time for our staff to get back to people. Is there a difference between like a teaching staff getting back versus a administrative staff getting back to someone? And I mean just acknowledging the email, even if an answer is not had. And I mean, I've heard from multiple people in different buildings and different levels of parents. So I just wanted to let you know that and kind of see if you could hone down on that. Thank you. All right, hearing nothing else, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. All those in, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. It's 10:36 p.m. We are adjourned. Thank you.